Hey guys, Rick at the Rally Sport Direct here. In front of me, I have one of the most overlooked components when it comes to suspension on a performance car, and that is the Whiteline Roll Center Kit. Now this is specific for the FR-S and the BRZ, which is why you can see our FR-S behind me here. But I wanted to go over what's included in this kit and mainly why you might want it. So let's go ahead and open it up. So normally this comes with a nice plastic cover over it, but for the sake of the video, I have removed it. And so we're just gonna take the ball joint and the tie rod end out of this package here. All right. So to the average person, this might look like a standard ball joint and tie rod end, but the main difference here is these are physically taller. Now you might wonder, why do you need taller ball joints and tie rod ends? And this is a very good question because mainly we're going for people who have lowered cars. Now, of course, we lower our car, we want better performance. I mean, some of us do it for looks, but most of us, we want better performance. But one downside to that is we actually screw up the suspension geometry. Basically, we want our control arms looking like this. When we lower the car, they're gonna go like this. Sometimes in extreme cases, they even go up like this. That's bad for handling. So that's where these come into play. These correct the suspension geometry on lowered vehicles. Now, again, I say it's often overlooked because most people, they throw coilovers on their car, they lower their car, and they don't really think about the suspension geometry. It's not really something a lot of people talk about, you know, outside of maybe like an autocross circle or a track circle. But even for an aggressively driven street car, these can make a huge difference on a lowered vehicle. Also, one benefit to it is they're fresh ball joints and tie rod ends. Is your vehicle, you know, hitting 100,000 miles, something like that, you just throw coilovers on, your chances are you're gonna go get an alignment anyway. You might as well throw these into the mix. Your car will thank you. It's just a good thing. So I don't want to get too technical as far as the geometry. It is something that you can look up and learn a lot about. You know, mainly we're talking about roll center and bump steer, and that these help correct both of those issues on lowered vehicles. So in order to get the most performance out of your suspension, definitely do a Whiteline Roll Center Kit. I actually have these installed on a lot of my personal vehicles. It's just something I kind of always budget for when I'm, you know, thinking about upgrading the suspension, and they're fantastic. I can always tell a difference. I plan on being able to tell a difference on our FR-S because this is basically the next step in the suspension upgrades is the Roll Center Kit. And I will, of course, do an install video. These are actually fairly easy to install. And then, of course, I'll give a post-review video, just kind of give you guys my impressions of it, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to like them. I think it's really gonna help the FR-S. It should help with, you know, eliminate some understeer and make the car just feel more planted through the corners. So let's go ahead and get started with the install. So we've just installed the Whiteline Roll Center Kit on our FR-S, and I've had a chance to drive it around for a bit, and of course I figured this would make a big difference in the car and the handling, but I wanted to give you guys my initial impressions and my review because, well, this is a new coilover setup for us and a lot of other new components. So overall, incredibly impressed with it. Just the turn-in is very sharp. The car feels much more, I guess, planted, especially through a hard corner. And so that brings me to my next point is performance. Of course, that's the main reason why we want to install this kit is to improve handling on the car. You know, you do your coilovers or springs and you're really looking to extract the maximum performance you can out of the suspension. This is one of those, again, often overlooked components when dealing with handling. And really all we're doing is correcting suspension geometry. That's it. But it makes a massive difference because, again, we lower the car, we really start to screw up that suspension suspension geometry that the car was designed for from the factory, and using the roll center kit, it gets that back to where it's supposed to be, or at least closer to where it's supposed to be, depending on how low you go with your car. Next thing I wanted to talk about was the installation. Now this is probably, I think, intimidating for a lot of people, because you do have to press out the ball joint and press in the new ball joint. But really, if you've got a press, or you know someone who has access to a press, they pop right in and out. They're very easy to get in and out. And then of course the ball joints, or excuse me, the tie rod ends themselves, you just thread those off, just mark where the old one was, and you can thread the new one back on. And then always get an alignment after you do something like this, just to be sure. And again, going for that maximum performance for handling, you're going to want to get an alignment anyway. And then last, would I recommend them? Yes, especially if your ball joints or tie rod ends are just worn out. You know, a car's got higher mileage on it. Maybe you do a lot of track days and they're just starting to wear out. It's just a kind of a no-brainer. And then also the fact that the dust boots on these are a little bit more durable than the OEM boots. Again, kind of a no-brainer, especially if you're doing track days. And other than that, I mean, I've just been incredibly pleased with the entire setup. And like I said, I've mostly do these on all my own personal vehicles, but I really wanted to do them here on the FRS, just because, again, I thought that was, you know, kind of the next step in handling. And I just can't say enough good things about these. It's just perfect. Anyway, I could ramble on and on about them, but do check them out, and make sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and that's all the time I've got for you today. Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you next time. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Pretty good.